Hi, this is Miss Park. This video is about graphs of lines and equations of lines. Now here's an equation of a line. It's written in the form y equals mx plus b. And what these things are is the m is called the slope, the b is called the y-intercept, and so you'd normally have a number here and a number here, and what this shows is a relationship between x and y. I'll show you what that means in a minute, but this y equals mx plus b is called slope y-intercept form of the equation. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to write equations of lines. This one is called the slope y-intercept form, and that's what we're going to learn in this video. Okay, so let me first take a graph. So I'm going to take this graph here, and let's write the slope y-intercept form of the equation of this graph. So we remember that it's y equals mx plus b. The m is the slope, the b is the y-intercept. Y-intercept is the easy one to find, usually. We'll find it where the line crosses the y-axis. So in here, in this line, it crosses the y-axis right here at this point, and that's the point 0, 4, which is called the y-intercept of the line. And so we say that the y-intercept is 4. We don't need to say 0, 4, because it's a y-intercept means it's on the y-axis. It's already known that that's going to be 0 something. So the only number we need is the 4. So we know that that's going to be y equals something x plus 4. Okay, now to figure out the slope, we need to take any 2 points that we can read clearly from the graph. So I can read this y-intercept, but I can also read this one. Okay, I wouldn't take this one because it's in the middle of a box. I can't read it clearly. But you take what's called the grid point, which is a point that's at the cross of 2 of these lines, so you can read it clearly. And then what we do is we travel from this point at the left going to the right. We always travel to the right. So if I want to go from this point to this point, first I need to go down, and then I need to go to the right. This down or up and down is called the rise. Okay, and then the side to side is called the run. In other words, this up and down is the difference in the y's. We called it delta y, which is the change in the y. And the side to side is the change in the x's. And when you take the change in the y's divided by the change in the x's, you get the rate of change. So remember, if the painter is charging $10 for 3 hours of work and $15 for 4 hours of work, we can calculate the rate of change by taking the difference in the prices divided by the difference in that time, in the hours. And when we're working with x and y, it's not a rate of change. Rate of change is when we have a situation. When we don't, we just have x's, y's, we call it slope, or m. Okay, so what is the change to go from 4 down to 1? So the change is you subtract the y values. So it's 1 minus 4 over, and then the change in the x's is 2 minus 0. Okay, and that gives me negative 3 over 2 as the slope. If I'm using the graph, rise over run, so to get from this point to this point, I've got to rise down 3. Rising down means that my rise is negative 3, and my run is 2. Okay, so we can use this, the change in y divided by the change in x, or we can use the rise divided by the run. It's exactly the same thing. So now when I go into my formula, y equals negative 3 over 2 x plus b, and that's the equation. Notice the equation still has x and y, okay? Because what the equation is, it's a relationship between x and y. Just like with the painter, the equation, there was a relationship between the number of hours worked and the cost. So if you knew the number of hours worked, you could calculate the cost. And if you knew the cost, you could calculate how many hours that would be. In this case, if you knew the x-coordinate on the point of a line, you could use the equation to find the matching y-coordinate. If you knew the y-coordinate of a point on the line, you can use the equation, solve for the x-coordinate. any point xy that makes this equation true is a point on the line. So if xy is on the line, then the equation is true. So if you sub in your x's and your y's, you see the equation will be true. And the opposite is also true. If x and y make the equation true, then the point xy is on the line. Okay, so it's a relationship between x and y, and we're defining this relationship using an equation. The equation has y equals mx plus b. The two parts to figure out are the m and the b. The b is the y-intercept, where x is 0, so on the y-axis. The m is the change in y divided by the change in x. All right, let's do it one other way. What if I give you the equation and ask you to graph it? Okay, then what? So let's go. We see the equation is y equals mx plus b. All right, m is 1/4, b is -1. So let me write that over here. So what we'll do is we'll start with the -1. That's going to be our first point. We know that that's on the y-axis, so I'm going to put it in there. And now the slope is 1/4, which means I rise 1 and run 4. So let's use this point that we know is on the line. Rise 1 and run 4. So 1 up and 1, 2, 3, 4 across. Now I have 2 points on the line. Now, if I had more grid, I could do it again. Rise 1 and then run 1, 2, 3, 4. But I'm actually out of space here. So let's go the other way. What would be the opposite? Would be if I went down 1 and then 1, 2, 3, 4 the other way. Okay, so from each point to the next point, it's rising up and then across. And so now I'm going to have 3 points. I'm going to connect the dots, make a line that's nice and strong, like a nice thick visible line that extends to the edge of the grid, and it goes on forever from side to side because x and y can be anything. So it should go past the end of the grid, arrowheads on each side to show that it goes on forever, and then we always label the line with its equation. Okay, I'm going to do one more and then leave you to try the rest. Okay, y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we can see that the m is -1, the b is +2. All right, we'll start with the b, which is the y-intercept over here. That's our first point on the line. Now, the slope is -1. I need to write this as rise over run. So I really need to write it as something over something, as a fraction. The easiest way to take a number that doesn't have a denominator and give it a denominator is to just put it over 1. So now, from this first point that I have, I will rise down 1 and to the right 1. So we always run to the right, but we might rise up or rise down. So down 1, 1 to the right, down 1, 1 to the right, down 1, 1 to the right, down 1, 1 to the right. Go as far as you can go in the grid. Get some points on the other side too. Just follow the pattern. When you have enough points, use a ruler. Connect the dots. Nice and straight. Goes to the edge, arrowheads at the end, and then next to one of the arrowheads, write the equation of the line. Okay, and that is how you graph lines and name lines. Okay, what if, last thing, what if I didn't give you a graph, but I gave you a table of values? So here's my x, here's my y, and I'll give you some values, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, how would we write the equation of this? So you remember, equation is y equals mx plus b. You need an m and you need a b. The b is the y-intercept. Y-intercept is where x is equal to 0, right? Just like on the graph. The y-intercept is the point on the y-axis. That's where x is equal to 0. So find on your table of values, here it is. So the b is equal to 5. The m is the change in y divided by the change in x, right? It's rate of change. Pick any 2 points. Let's pick these 2. Okay, so we're going to subtract the y's. So 3 minus 1, the second one minus the first one. And then here, -1 minus -2. Being very, very careful with the integers. 3 minus 1 is 2, but now -1 minus -2 is -1 plus 2. So that's just 1, and that's 2. So writing the equation of the line gives us, therefore, y equals 2x plus 5. Okay, keep practicing. Lots of practice for this. All right, thank you for watching.